Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another installment of Kyle's Researching Topics. Today, I will be talking about clarifying the future of climate change. Now, it sounds very broad, but let's get into it. I think it is important to start with a little bit of background in the history of climate change. What did the world look like billions of years ago? When talking about the history of climate change, the first thing to look at, crucially, was the Ice Age. About 20,000 years ago, this world was in an ice age. Glaciers were dominant. They were taking up most of the land that we know today. Most of the northern hemisphere, places like Boston, Montreal, all places in Canada, covered with just glaciers. Those glaciers consumed so much water that sea levels were about 100 meters lower than they are today. These are all factors that we see affecting climate change and reasons why it's so hazardous. I want to stay on the topic of those glaciers and look at how it has affected since that time, 20,000 years ago. Like I said, the glaciers have melted, the ice sheets have shrank, which in turn have caused massive floods, and it led to a high rise in sea level, which affects coastal shores, which is leading to submerges of land under the sea level. Those are the effects of climate change, and we need to look at that as a society, as a community, to try to help and prevent that as much as possible before it happens all over the world. I want to continue this talk in our new scenery here about how people like me and you, people throughout our whole community, can really help stop this problem in climate change. It's hard for one single person to do that, but we as a community can try to help with our leaders, the government, giving us plans of action. I just talked about how we could stop glaciers from melting, ice sheets from shrinking. That's impossible for us to do, but there are ways that we could help our community. So what is that plan? It's been in scientific discussions, yes, but does our worldwide community really need to slow down this rapid growing pace? There's been a plan of action beginning in 2014 called the Paris Climate Agreement, which stated its new course to combat climate change in any efforts possible. Before this agreement was signed, the world was looking at a 4 degrees Celsius increase by 2100, which would be seen as catastrophic. After the Paris Climate Agreement, we're looking at only a 3 degrees Celsius increase by the end of the century, which is obviously better, but still not where we want to be. After looking at that statistic, countries plan on doing an even better job at cutting down their emissions, and if those plans were to be followed through with, it is expected to see only a 2 to 2.4 Celsius increase by 2100. Scientific research, however, suggests that the safest global temperature increase should be limited to 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of the century to ensure proper welfare. All the information provided came from New York Times, and I want to show you guys a graph on this website that demonstrates what I was just explaining about. Now, on this graph, we see right here, this little dot is where we are now. At the end here is 2100, the end of the century. The y-axis here shows carbon emissions, which in turn shows results of climate change. The x-axis is the years. This is where we will be, 2100. Where do we want to be with carbon emissions? Now, if we were to take no plan of action, this is where we would go. Catastrophic. With the Paris Agreement Act, only 3 degrees Celsius, we'd follow the orange. But it is still devastating. If we were to completely follow our plans, country's plans, we would follow this yellow line right here. Still not the best, not where we want to be. And finally, what I last said, scientific research shows that this blue line here, all the way down there, would be the safest and most cautious area to be. Now, I was talking a lot about the future and what it will look like if we don't take action, but I want to take it back and figure out what happened. Why did this all happen? Why is climate change an issue today? If we bring it back to the time of the Age of Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution, we can see the faulty behavior. It is known that the Industrial Revolution started the move to powerful factories, creating easier work for all, but in turn, it left those people in charge to burn fossil fuels like coal and natural gas. Those emissions were not noticed until global climate change was realized as a problem. Those were our past mistakes that we must fix now. All was well back in the day during the Industrial Revolution until it became a crisis in today's world. It was not anyone's fault to start the Industrial Revolution. No one knew its effects. Now that we know that it's a main cause of carbon emissions, we have to slow down our emissions use in the best way possible. Obviously, some companies need to burn fossil fuels, but there may be a lot that can change their processes to help the environment. Maybe there should be an award from government agencies, maybe, to companies who eliminate all their emissions somehow. I've been talking a lot about the past, then the future, back to the recent past, but now I want to focus on right now. What can we do to help? Every separate person on Earth plays a part in this problem, but only those fortunate enough to change something about their lifestyles can help. So why don't they? Not everyone can buy a new electric car, replace their gas stove with an electric one, and stop eating meat. I'm not going to do that. But the people who can afford these new things should buy them because it will help with the problem. However, the people who can't can only feel bad. Most people can only feel bad. And that is what we need to figure out. How can everyone play a part to stop carbon emissions, to lower the rate of climate change? That is the truth. If the people who can help the problem don't do their part, it will never be fixed. Now would be a great time to mention that we have to actively correct our past mistakes because it's too late to just mend our ways. And that is the installment for today. If I were to leave you with one thing, it would be how clarifying the future of climate change can relate to the Anthropocene. If you do not know what the Anthropocene is, it is the current geological epoch. That is when humans came to Earth and started human revolution. Climate change began because of humans. Human revolution, everything we did had the effect for climate change. The Anthropocene started when climate change started. Thank you.